Bitcoin. So here's its history, most of its history. And you can see we have been in effectively a bull market with higher lows since its inception. And here we are again. We're on the way up. I think what happened this year is quite significant. It happened that the Bitcoin moved up during a risk-off, a very important risk-off moment, the regional bank crisis in March. It went from 19,000. This is a long-term chart, so what I'm telling you is an intraday. It hit a low during that regional bank crisis at 19,000 and shot up to 30,000. Why was that? Flight to quality, as Larry Fink would say. Flight to quality, as we would say. Flight to safety, as we would say, because there is no counterparty risk here in this decentralized, transparent monetary system, unlike what happened to the fiat monetary system in 08-09. And I think more people are beginning to understand that this is not just a risk-on asset. When the markets are feeling really good, Bitcoin tends to do very well. But can you believe it's also a risk-off vehicle? And more investors, including institutions, are beginning to understand this. The government may shut down in mid-November. We do have a new speaker in the House, but there is still partisan saber rattling, or they may get a continuing resolution, so we don't have to deal with this over the holidays and move the debate into January. It's just becoming de rigueur now, and I think investors are getting used to it. They don't like it. Nobody likes it, but it is what it is. The other thing that happened actually this week was an executive order on artificial intelligence, which we think can be described as serious overreach and certainly favors the incumbents and we think would really hurt innovation. So it is an executive order. We do think that both Bitcoin or crypto or digital assets and artificial intelligence now could become part of the election year debate. It seems like both groups, the Bitcoin and crypto digital asset community and the AI community, except for maybe the largest players, are both up in arms about this executive order. If it becomes an election year issue, we believe that candidates will distinguish themselves with their points of view on these topics. And what I found interesting in our brainstorm today is that both of these, the crypto/digital assets controversies vis-a-vis this administration, and now the AI controversy, both of them are bipartisan. So they will get some attention. And if there is a change in the administration, of course, that executive order will probably be no longer because, again, we think it's going to become an election year issue.
The number of Bitcoin nodes, those crucial network components, has just hit over 17,000 for the first time in a decade. We've seen a 70% rise in just 2 years. Back in 2020, we had around 10,000 nodes, and that number remained steady during the 2021 bull run. Here's the twist. Every bull peak adds about 5,000 nodes. These nodes are essential for validating and transmitting transactions, and they're like Bitcoin's heartbeat. Around 2017, we hit 10,000 nodes, but now there's a unique development. IPv4 nodes have dropped to 5,000, while Tor nodes surged to 10,000 as of November. Here's the plot twist. Tor nodes increased when the bull market was about to begin. More in July 2021 and even more during the banking crisis in March 2022. But having so many Tor nodes is a bit tricky because we're not sure if they're all run by one entity. This situation could lead to certain attacks and someone might deceive others. The solution? Declare your preferences. Sync mostly from IPv4 and IPv6 nodes and just a bit from Tor nodes. This is vital for simplified payment verification, SPV wallets. Big crypto players, it's essential to run your own nodes. If you're a regular crypto enthusiast, just check reliable sources for node approval. So what's the big deal? Well, these nodes show that Bitcoin's growing demand even during bearish times. Ethereum is catching up too with around 7,500 nodes. So Bitcoin and Ethereum's node armies keep growing and the crypto heartbeat is getting stronger. Financial services giant Fidelity's director of global macro says Bitcoin is exponential gold. He explained that gold is too deflationary and clunky to be used as a medium of exchange, noting that investors own it primarily as a store of value, and one of the many reasons Bitcoin is often compared to gold. Let's continue our discussion with Cathie Wood.
So fiscal policy, let's just look at the facts. You can see here the federal deficit as a percent of nominal GDP since the late 60s. And I remember in moving into the business or coming into the business in the late 70s, early 80s, during the Reagan administration, when the deficit hit 5%, there was hell to pay. I mean, both sides of the aisle were up in arms. Now, it happened because of back-to-back recessions, you can see in the shaded lines there. And as Federal Reserve Chairman Paul Volcker was slamming the brakes on money growth. And so we had a difficult period. And typically the deficit does go up during difficult periods, recessions in particular, because of what we call contra-cyclical spending. This is what government is supposed to do, provide a safety net. Well, you can see what's happened since then. We're now, supposedly without a recession, we're at roughly 6% as a percent of GDP, the deficit is. And so the question is, oh my goodness, what would happen in a recession? Well, you saw what happened in COVID. During COVID, that's where contra-cyclical spending really kicked in. And so we're back roughly to where the deficit was pre-COVID. Now, as many of you may know, we believe we've been in a rolling recession for the last few years, and we'll get into that with more charts. So maybe this spending and this deficit is more contra-cyclical than many people think. And we learned from the early 80s that the best way to get out of a deficit like this is to have very rapid growth. So you'll look at the 80s and 90s. We had spectacular growth. Technology was coming of age. Inflation and interest rates were coming down. And you can see what happened to the deficit. It turned into a surplus during Bill Clinton's administration.
The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission's former head of Internet Enforcement says the conviction of ex-FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried, SBF, is just the tip of the iceberg for the entire crypto industry. People should not think that it's safe to go back in the water. It's a mammoth house of cards, he stressed, asserting that crypto, Web3, and blockchain are all nonsense. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more daily updates. Remember, knowledge is power, and we're here to empower you on your financial journey. Until next time, happy investing.